If you are to my right, you're welcome to stay there, but the main part of the show is going to be left of me. We're about to get started here in a few minutes. Today's Tank Saturday theme is the Gulf War. This year we are commemorating the 25th anniversary of the Gulf War, the liberation of Kuwait. In August of 1990, Saddam Hussein invaded the tiny oil-rich nation of Kuwait. The Western Allies, led by the United States, quickly amassed a large force whose sole job was to remove the Iraqis from that country. After 4 months of preparation, the war began, and the Allies unleashed a campaign of shock and awe. The air war lasted 6 weeks, but once the ground assault began, it was all over in under 100 hours. Today we have collected what represents vehicles that were in the Gulf. Some of these vehicles actually served in the 1990-1991 Gulf War. The vehicles you see have been restored to how they looked during that conflict, with all markings and equipment. Canada also played a large role in that conflict. In Canada's Operation Friction, about 4,000 service personnel participated in the intervention. These servicemen and women were primarily attached to 4 Canadian units: the Canadian Task Group at Sea, the Canadian Air Task Group, Joint Headquarters, and the 1st Canadian Field Hospital. Today we pay tribute to our Canadian Forces personnel and those of our allies that served during this conflict. We're just going to go over a few safety things. You notice that there is a fence between you and the tank arena. There's also a wide patch of grass. That is a no-go zone. If at any time anyone enters that area, we will have to stop the show. If at any point there is a safety concern, a possible injury, or a pedestrian that enters the tank arena, you will hear this. If you do hear that, please stay exactly where you are until the all clear is sound. We also ask that you do not touch or lean on that fence. It is just a snow fence. Let's let the show begin. First we'll start with the British vehicle. The Land Rover Defender 90. Americans had the Jeep, but the British had Land Rovers. They are still widely used and served in the Gulf as admin transporters. They carried troops, supplies, and served as ambulance to help the wounded. The Land Rover you see here is an SAS Special Forces unit that operated behind enemy lines, disrupting the enemy, and many were tasked to track down Scud missile launchers. This here you see it is heavily armed but lightly armored. It is fast, can move through the desert. It is a Scud hunter. More heavily armored, we see the Daimler Ferret Mark I scout car. Ferrets were used by the British and many other nations starting in 1954. The Gulf War in 1991 was the last conflict they participated in. By 1994, 40 years later, they were retired from service. This vehicle you see here, call sign 43 Alpha, was actually used in the Gulf War. The vehicle is equipped with the same markings as it did in 1990. This Ferret sat abandoned in an open field in Belgium for 18 years before it was restored to what you see today, 1 year ago. British light tank, the CVRT Scimitar. The CVRT is a British vehicle. There are several variants we're going to show you today. CVRT stands for Combat Vehicle Reconnaissance Tracked. This small tank was actually used in a reconnaissance role, not in a tank-to-tank role. Just 3 years out of service, this light recce vehicle has been widely used by the British Army for the last 40 years. During the Gulf War, it went far ahead of the main force, seeking out the enemy and reporting back their location. Next we have up the very deadly CVRT Striker. This was also designed as a recce vehicle, but its job was actually to destroy enemy tanks and armored vehicles. It followed behind the Scimitars like the vehicle we just seen, and it used swing-fire missile systems. The missile platform that you see above holds 5 missiles, with 5 more stowed inside the vehicle. The range of these swing-fire missiles is 4,000 meters, and is capable of destroying any modern enemy tank. It is small, it is fast, but it has quite a punch. The vehicle you see here, this exact vehicle, actually served in the Gulf War and successfully engaged 2 main enemy battle tanks and destroyed 2 BMP-1 armored personnel carriers. It is a veteran of the Gulf War. Here we have the Scorpion CVRT, another variant. This one has a 76 millimeter cannon. We're actually going to give you a fire demonstration. So, Commander, are you ready to fire? This is going to be very loud, ladies and gentlemen. Later on in the show, you're going to hear more of that. Once again, this light tank was meant for reconnaissance. CVRT light tanks are exceptionally fast. And now for the American vehicle. The Humvee. This is the armament version of the Humvee. It was used by the U.S. Marines during the Gulf War and fought through the Iraqi defenses right into Kuwait City. It wasn't intended for urban warfare, but it ended up in close urban warfare combat. Mounted on top of it, it has a 50 caliber heavy machine gun in a rotational roof mount. It can go 360 degrees. Gunner, can you give us a demonstration of the 50 cal? The Humvee has a bulletproof doors with Kevlar armor and bulletproof glass. This one here was built in 1985 and represents the earlier models of the American Humvee. I'm sure many of you recognize these and have seen them in conflicts all around the world. Now for the star of our show, Grumpy. Grumpy is an M60 American main battle tank. The U.S. Marine Corps exclusively used the M60 tank during the Gulf War, and it was instrumental in the success of the battle for the Kuwait airport. It shows the colored markings of the U.S. Marine Corps as they entered battle some 25 years ago. This is a 56-ton monster, a main battle tank. You can really see the difference between the M60 and the CBRT. This vehicle was designed for vehicle-to-vehicle combat. The 105mm cannon will not fire today. If it did, I assure you it would blow your hats right off. Now today's Gulf War vehicles are going to parade around. It's a great opportunity to get photos and video. Also, a few of them will do the simulated fire. I warn you that it will be very loud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the vehicle, let's have a few more shots from that CBRT, I believe. Here he comes. You will notice that there is a green flag on the tower. The flag is for the crew and the drivers. That lets them know that it's safe to drive in the tank arena. When these vehicles come to a complete stop and they're shut down, I'm going to put up the red flag. We have the vehicles all parked over on the other side there, out of the mud. And you can go up and get a closer look at these vehicles. You can meet the crews and learn more about them. If we can hear it for our volunteers and crews. Thank you once again for visiting the Ontario Regiment RCAC Museum Tank Saturday event. We do have one for the second weekend of each month.